like to just go back to the whole topic of drinking Coca-Cola, water, Powerade on the route. One of the age-old tricks that runners use, especially if they have sensitive stomachs, is to drink the Coca-Cola, but to mix it with water, to water it, to thin it down a bit. What is your take on that? Pros and cons?
Yeah, no, that's absolutely true. I could never drink Coke, for instance. I just didn't tolerate it well at all, which is unfortunate because it's readily available at every race. A friend of mine ran brilliantly on pure Coke. So, this comes down to the individual differences, and that's why I said you need to experiment in your training runs. What works for you, the Powerade or the Coke? The watered down Coke, unfortunately, is very low in carbohydrate content. It's only about a 5% concentration carbohydrate drink. So if you're only drinking watered down Coke, 50-50 as you said, the amount of carbohydrate that you're going to ingest during the race is pretty low. And you're going to probably suffer for that. Your blood glucose is probably going to start going down somewhere later on in the race, and you're going to start feeling horrible, hyperglycemic and stuff like that. So if you are finding that you're one of those people that do have such a sensitive stomach that you have to drink diluted Coke, then you better start experimenting more with some of these gels and stuff that you can ingest along the way, and take a whole lot of those with you and practice that in training as well. And if you're drinking your diluted Coke, then you're going to have to supplement it with some of these, like I say, gels or something like that along the way. If you can tolerate pure Coke, that's fantastic because that's so much more carbohydrate. And Powerade is almost the same carbohydrate content as Coke. So experiment with the Powerade. That might not cause the same stomach problems. But again, if you can't drink enough, if you find that you have to pull back on the amount of either of those that you're drinking, then again, the value of the supplemental sachets comes in. What one should try and aim for is to get around about 50 or 60 grams of carbohydrate into yourself per hour. So if you're drinking pure Coke, for instance, that's 10 grams per 100 milliliters, pretty much. So you'd need to be looking at drinking about 500 mils or 600 milliliters of Coke per hour during the race. So that's sort of like calculations that runners can sort of think about, see how much 500 mils is, how often they're going to take from the table, and kind of work out, okay, I need to get so much Coke per table to get me the amount that I need. If they're drinking the diluted Coke, okay, now I'm only getting half what I need, so I must supplement with at least 1 gel per hour. So runners need to just do a little bit of calculation in terms of what their total carbohydrate intake is going to be. So roughly 500, 600 mils would do it, and of the Powerade as well, and then to work from there. If it's a very hot day, of course, you can supplement with more water and such like. But I'd be careful about going more on the Coke or the Powerade, because that's something else that you haven't experimented with in training, and you might start getting a stomach reaction, starting feeling nauseous. It starts sloshing around in the stomach and you feel horrible.
Speaking of things sloshing around in the stomach, that also raises a very important topic, which is even more so important for back of the pack runners on a hot day when they are drinking more and more and more because they are becoming thirsty. It's always been a hotly debated topic in running circles, but hyponatremia, water intoxication. We've been talking about drinking Coke and Powerade and ingesting carbohydrate, and then we touched on watered down Coke. But there is actually a danger of drinking too much liquid, specifically water. So can you just explain that especially for newcomers to the sport?
Yes, absolutely. An interesting question. It was something that Prof. Tim Noakes got into quite a while back now, but he was one of those that pioneered the whole hyponatremia, water intoxication thing. And I think it stemmed from the fact that there was a mantra of drink lots, drink more, drink even more than that. And runners took this on board, and that's exactly what they did. And they started drinking so much that they were actually getting into trouble. Certain individuals couldn't handle it, would get into trouble and get this condition of hyponatremia. So Tim used to say, drink to thirst, which is probably a good way to do it. I like to modify that a little bit, and going back to what I was saying earlier, the 500 to 600 milliliters as like a minimum, because that's going to deliver the carbohydrate we were talking about. But over and above that, if you're feeling thirsty, drink more. If you're not, don't bother, you'll be fine.